In this session, let us study about properties of integers under multiplication. The first property is called as closure property. What does this closure property state? It states that if p and q are two integers, then their product, that is p times q, will also be an integer. This property is called as closure property. Suppose 2 and 5 are two integers, then 2 times 5 is 10. 10 is also an integer. If negative 3 and 6 are two integers, then negative 3 times 6, which is negative 18, is also an integer. So this property is called as closure property. The next property we have here is commutative property. What do you mean by commutative property of integers under multiplication? We say that if p and q are two integers, then p times q will be same as q times p. This property is called as commutative property. Suppose 4 and 5 are two integers, then 4 times 5 will give you 20 and 5 times 4 will also give you 20. That means to say 4 times 5 is equal to 5 times 4, and hence we say that this integers under multiplication are commutative, or commutative property holds good under multiplication of integers. Then the third property that we have is called associative property. Now what is associative property? If p, q and r are three integers, then p times q times r is equal to p times q times r. This property is called as associative property. Let us understand this with the help of an example. Say for example 2, 3 and 4 are three integers. Then 2 times 3 times 4 is 2 times, what is 3 times 4? It is 12. Now 2 times 12 is 24. Now what is 2 times 3 times 4? 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. As you can see, both will give you the same result, 24. Or in other words, p times q times r is same as p times q times r. This property is called associative property, and we say that integers under multiplication are associative, or we say that associative property holds good under multiplication of integers. Then the next property that we have is identity property. Identity property is also called as multiplicative identity. We have an integer 1, where this integer 1 whenever multiplied by any other number will give you the same number. That means to say 1 is such an integer which will retain the identity of our original number. That is the reason you say that this 1, which is an integer, as an identity, and we say that such an identity exists in the set of integers, and we say this identity as multiplicative identity. So 1 is called as a multiplicative identity because 1, whenever it is multiplied by any other integer, will give you the same integer. And as per commutative law, you know 1 times p is same as p times 1. Both will give you the same result, p. And another interesting point here is we also have an integer 0, but 0 is not a multiplicative identity because any integer when multiplied by 0 will give you 0. Any integer, for suppose if I have 2, if I am multiplying 2 by 0, I get 0. But if I am multiplying 2 by 1, I get 2. That means this 1 is such an integer which when multiplied by any other integer will retain the identity of that integer. So 1 is called as multiplicative identity. And the next property under multiplication is called as distributive property. The distributive property of multiplication states that if p, q and r are three integers, then p times q plus r is same as p times q plus p times r. Let us understand this with the help of an example. Say 1, 2 and 3 are three integers. Then 1 times 2 plus 3 is same as 1 times 2 plus 1 times 3. Because what is 1 times 2 plus 3? It is 1 times 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 times 3 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5 again, which is same in both the cases. This property is called as distributive property, and we say that distributive property holds good under multiplication of integers. So these are the main properties of integers under multiplication.